Hi, I'm Quinn. Today we're going to be looking at a category which I do not think is really discussed at all in the Bond fandom, if you will, and that is when Bond almost dies, and it really happens a lot. When I was originally going to make this list, it was going to be the top 5, but after going through which ones I was going to include, I realized there was too many to only boil it down to that much, so I decided to do a top 10, and there's only one honorable mention, and that is For Your Eyes Only. The reason it's an honorable mention instead of top 10 is because I feel like it repeats a lot of what they did at the end of Live and Let Die, where Bond's, I guess, tied up to a Bond girl, but then gets away because of in Live and Let Die he gets away because of a razor that he has in his watch, whereas in Fear Eyes Only he gets away because he rubs the rope on Coral, and it just feels a little too much like Live and Let Die, and I don't really get that big of a sense of danger that Bond won't be able to escape, but through all this, we get one great scene. Okay, pause. How Roger Moore is able to keep a straight face in this scene is beyond me, seeing as this is arguably the dumbest thing ever. Okay, sorry, I just thought I should point that out. Number 10 is in a movie which a lot of people agree is really bad because of how unrealistic it is. But I think this one scene is really cool because of how, I wouldn't say realistic it is, but just how you feel the danger, and that's Moonraker. Originally, when I was making this list, I completely forgot about this scene, but when I was making number 4, which you guys will see later in this video, it reminded me of it just because I love how cool old Roger Moore is in a real state of panic, and I really buy that he's actually freaked out. Not Roger Moore isn't the most convincing of actors at times, but I think that The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker are some of his best films because of how believable he is, and I just think that this is more of a credit to Roger Moore than it is the scenario. I love how he remembers Q's gadget and how he's like thinking to anything he could do to get out of it. And with like the last little effort of his hand, he's able to get out. Number 9, I will always stand by, is the best scene in this entire film, and that is the pre-title sequence of Moonraker. This scene, I think, is above the other scene in Moonraker simply because in Moonraker you had a sense that he was going to be able to escape, either because, Goodhead was going to, karate chop the guy in the back or something like that, but for this, I genuinely had no idea how he was going to escape. I know in a lot of the Connery films they do this, Bond's going to die, but he doesn't really, whereas in this scene, I knew he was going to survive, but I really didn't know how. Even when he was wrestling for the parachute, he could have so easily just dropped it, which is actually true because they spent, I believe, around, I want to say 50 takes making this scene, and I'm actually certain it is more, but I find it very interesting how they decided to put in this much effort into this pre-title sequence, which is funny seeing as other parts of this movie are very lazy, but I love how they include Jaws and giving an idea that he will be in this film, and overall I just think it's a really cool scene in the film. Number 8, I feel, is a lot like the, number 9 in this list, but the only difference is because this is the end of the film, I feel like it's more believable, and that is the interrogation in The World Is Not Enough. This scene is very well done, and I think it could have very easily been botched, and that's one of the reasons I appreciate it. Brosnan could have come off as too wooden, or Elektra couldn't have been serious enough, but I think that they both give a really good performance. Although I don't buy Brosnan at times in this, I love how he, the entire time, keeps his cool in the scene. He never gives a real sign of being worried, even though he, knows his neck is, right about to break, and even when it's, apparent that he is done, he just keeps his cool, but the reason it's lower than some other ones is because I feel like other scenes are a lot more tense, because knowing Brosnan, you knew he wasn't gonna die in the end, and overall I think it's really cool, but luckily for him, he has a cane, which reminds me of another film. Casino Royale? Anyone? No? Just me? Okay. Anyways, I think this is a really cool scene. I love how they bring this guy back for The World's Not Enough. I think he was great in GoldenEye, and I think he gives just as good a performance in the world and not enough, making him one of my all-time favorite two-time characters in the entire series. But Bond is a lucky fellow, and that's why he escapes. Number 7, I think a lot of people remember this scene because they played this video game when they were a kid, but that is the GoldenEye Bond trapped in a helicopter scene. This scene I think is really cool, down to the performance of Bond and Natalia, coupled with the fact that this score is awesome at this point. Now, this film as a whole has a pretty shitty score, but scenes like this are why I really enjoy the score. I mean, it's really cool. I guess in a more GoldenEye specific video I'll talk about it, but I just wanted to mention that. And overall, I think this is just a really, really cool scene. I love how Bond's like, holy shit, how the hell am I going to get out? And I love how Giannis is just fucking him over at every little turn. It's great, but I think it's largely down to the fact that Natalia's like, hurry the hell up the entire time. And I think it's really funny how she's just like telling Bond, like, hurry the goddamn hell up, because we are screwed unless you fix this. And I love how Brosnan's just like watching the rockets, like, they're like just gonna like float off, and then he gives like a double take back when he sees them come back at him. And I just think overall it's a really funny scene, and I talk a lot about how the performance in these near-death experiences really affect my enjoyment of them. And it's times like these when I say this. And I just think it's really a great performance from the both of them. And a really cool scene, and I would say one of the best scenes in one of my favorite films. I found an alternate track to this film, and I just wanted you guys to hear this. I think it's really cool. Tell me your opinions on this. Or it might just be the GoldenEye N64 music. Either way. Number 6, let's just say it happens in The Spy Who Loved Me and Octopussy.
I'm sure the general will get a big blast out of this.
I know he won't be disappointed.
Yes, it's when Bond pulls out an atomic bomb, and that happens in The Spy Who Loved Me and Octopussy. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I think it's a thing that happens a lot in Bond films, and it's a pretty given thing, but I love how every time they do it, they manage to make it very suspenseful, and that's what I enjoy about these scenes. They're not the most convincing, but they're really cool scenes, and I enjoy them a lot. Number 5.
Care to share that information with me?
Well, one way is to take a pencil and jam it in the depression hole behind his eye.
And the other?
Oh, the other is twice as simple. You just put your hand in his mouth and pull his teeth out.
You guys knew this was going to be here. I know it's a great scene. I'm not going to talk about that as much. As I love how, for this scene, he relies less on his gadgets and more on his, I guess, wit in order to escape from this scenario. And I think it's really cool how they decided to do that. Later in the Roger Moore era, it's more about, his gadgets saving his ass. But I love how, for this one scene, they give it where he has to, give some athletic ability. And I find it interesting how on YouTube, there is more videos of him attempting to cross than him of succeeding, and which I find very interesting, seeing as this is a really cool stunt. There was a solid 10 minutes of footage of the stuntman trying to get over, and only 15 seconds of him actually doing it, and I think that's really cool, and shows a lot of how great the stunt actually was. Number 4, and please, please, please do not yell at me for having this so low. This scene is the best scene in the series, hands down. Everything about it is just so cool and so suspenseful, but the reason it's here instead of number 1, number 2, or number 3 is because I think the other scenes are more Bond is going to die. There is no question about it. Whereas this, you don't know how he's going to escape, but you can just sense that there's something that's going to happen. Either Goldfinger's going to change his mind, or Bond's going to have some miracle strength and just get out. But this scene is incredible, and I gotta say, it is probably my favorite scene in every single Bond film. This is the best scene, hands down. And although it is a great scene, I do not think it's the best near-death experience. Well, scene that is, anyways. Number 3 is a scene that the reason it's higher than Goldfinger's because the only reason Bond escapes is because of dumb luck. I'm sorry that this is higher than Goldfinger, but for me, I think that Bond had a bigger chance of dying in this scene than he did in Goldfinger. In Goldfinger, he was like negotiating with the guy the entire time, whereas in this scene, he wakes up in a fire chamber. Like, there is no chance he gets out. The only reason he actually does get out is because, well, he got double-crossed, and in turn, he double-crosses someone else, and that's the only reason he gets out. But if it causes this one sentence, then I'm completely okay with it.
You dirty double-crossing limey think those goddamn diamonds are phonies.
Number 2, and the only reason this is here is because it's almost too good to be true. The only reason I say it's too good to be true is because it's actually impossible that Bond would survive this. It's one thing to be shot there and then survive. That alone is very hard, as M proves later in the film. Well, spoilers. And coupled with the fact that he falls off a frickin' bridge and then basically drowns, there is no way he could actually survive that. And the reason it's not number 1 is because number 1, he was very close to dying, but he actually survives. Whereas this, he literally dies. So I can't call it near death if he goes past the near-death barrier and actually dies. And that's why it's here. Coupled with the fact that it doesn't really make sense that he dies, that's why it's here. Number 1. I can't say it's that surprising that this is here. Hey, doesn't that medical thing kind of look like something? No, just me. God, I'm not funny today. Okay, anyways, I think that this scene is just overall so good. It's really tense. I love how they decided to go this route of, Bond's not invincible, seeing as he gets tortured near the end of the film and how he really cannot do anything about it. And I love how they decided to go this route with Craig. I know in the Dalton era, a lot of people didn't like it, how he was hard-nosed, but I like how in the Craig era, they kind of took that, but made a twist on it to show that he's not full-on badass like Dalton, that he actually can, be taken down. And also, it determines him to win the poker game later in the film, and overall, all those things together make this scene just absolutely perfect. So how was I? Was I too easy on Roger Moore and Daniel Craig and too harsh on Brosnan and Dalton? Leave a comment below. I want to hear your guys' opinions. I feel like I definitely left some stuff out on this, so I want to hear your guys' opinions. Next time we'll be doing a video that you guys have really been wanting to see for a while, so I'll give it to you guys finally. My Dr. No review.